Week 15 for the NFL came and went in eventful fashion in every sense of the word, really. My name's Adam Wright with CJ Medeiros and Justin Tucker. You're listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Secret Weapon Consulting. Guys, this week really was a pleasure to watch. From shocking upsets to horrible officiating at times to a unbelievable comeback that we already covered for technical reasons for our show. But we have a great show planned for you guys tonight. We're going to cover the Cowboys, how they lost to the Jaguars 40-34. We're going to hit on the Dolphins, who have dropped their third straight loss, falling to 8-6 into the last seed in the playoffs after at one point for a brief moment holding on to the number one seed. But first, how are you guys?
Not too bad.
Adam, I'm fine. Holiday season's coming up. First semester of this college year is over, so can't complain. It's been nice.
Yeah, but you know what we can complain about is the Patriots in that stupid game. In any way you can,
sports fans is what we do.
The officiating, the play calling.
Dude, it's not even our game. Dude, I'm sorry. I'm just saying, when it comes to officiating, it's not even our game. It didn't just stay to our game. It was also the Commanders-Giants officiating was god-awful as well. The NFL in general has an officiating problem, and all 32 teams should be upset.
I agree. But we're going to start with the Cowboys, who have lost to the Jaguars 40-34 in an upset loss. Now, I would like to take back what I said a couple of weeks ago about the team that would most threaten Philly being the Cowboys and not being the 49ers. I heard what you said. I listened to the last episode, CJ. I heard what you said.
Yeah,
you said
you should.
Listen, the Cowboys, from a talent perspective, are a team where, at their absolute best, can beat any team in the league. Like they're just that talented at like everywhere you look. Their offensive line is great. Their passing game is very good. Their defense is really good. Their running game is elite. The only spot where they fall short in is being able to win in big moments or just late in the season. And in this case, so you can spin this game a couple of ways. So the Cowboys, they went up 3 possessions and they blew that lead in choking fashion. But the Jaguars, they have been a red hot team lately. And you have Trevor Lawrence, who has been showing out and really making tremendous strides late in his second year. But there's no excuse. If you are the Cowboys, who I have as arguably a top 2 team in all of football, top 2, at least 3, then you need to win this game regardless. If the Jaguars come in here and they put up a fight, and let's say you blow the 3 possession lead and the Cowboys, they still win the game, then I'd say that's almost a plus. That's great. You managed, you got smacked in the face by a team that's on the up and up, and you still hung in there and won the game. Because that's what you should do. You're a great team. You beat other teams who are also very good, or just teams that show up on any given Sunday. They didn't do that. You lost the freaking game to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But guys, I wanted to get your thoughts on the Cowboys this season. Is this just another year? Is this just another year for the Cowboys?
CJ, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Yes, it is. And Adam, we've spoken about this before and how we say we can't sleep on the Cowboys because the typical excuse of, it's the Cowboys, they don't do anything, isn't really analytical. But I'm starting to wonder if that argument holds some weight. And a lot of it comes from coaching. I have been adamant ever since they hired him that Mike McCarthy is a terrible head coach. Even Aaron Rodgers, who's a future Hall of Famer, can only carry him so far. And I feel like if they actually got like a good head coach, now I'm not saying to go out and get these people, but someone like a Mike McDaniel or a Kevin O'Connell or anyone like that, they'd look a lot better. But yeah, a lot of it's coaching, but at the same time, they just imploded against Jacksonville. But a lot of me thinks that perhaps this says more about Jacksonville than it does about Dallas. Because, like you mentioned, they're on the up and up. Trevor Lawrence has taken a massive stride in his second year. But the Cowboys, they're not first in their division for a reason. Their schedule's not really that challenging. I think they're going to be a one and done team in the playoffs. Personally, they're really fraudulent. But hey, what else is new at this point?
I guess it's my turn.
All right.
I'll take it away from here. Every time me and Adam have this conversation, I tell them they can't help themselves. They always mess it up. There's no reason for it. There's no explanation for it. They just do it. And Adam every time says that's not a good explanation. I know this is what they always do, but this year will be different. And I ask him why. Because they can't keep messing this up. And I keep telling them.
It has to happen sometime.
It has to happen. I keep telling them. No, it's not. It's the Cowboys. They haven't been able to get this right since 1996. Can't even make a conference championship appearance. I try to tell him every time, and he doesn't listen. Obviously, when I look back on Sunday's game, it wasn't Dak Prescott's fault. He threw a pick six. It went through the receiver's hands. It was an accident. It was waiting to happen because it's the Cowboys. Now, should they have been in that position in the first place? No, because you don't give up a lead of that margin in the fourth quarter just like that and then go into overtime against a respectable team that I do concede in the Jacksonville Jaguars. But if you are a playoff team, you close that door firmly and tell them not today. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case with the Cowboys, wasn't it? And even though they did clinch the playoffs because the Commanders lost, they did not deserve to feel gratitude that day. Oh my God, where do I begin? They look like game busters in the first half. Second half, the Jaguars walked them down. Fourth quarter, when you need it the most, Dak Prescott throws a pass, went through the receiver's hands, intercepted. The game is over. I don't even know where to go with this team. They drop passes when you need them to complete passes. They fumble the ball when you least expect it. They turn it over when you don't want them to turn it over. And yet, for some reason, Adam will come on here and tell you that, oh my God, they're a top two, if not top three team in the NFL. They're not even a top three team in the NFC right now. I'm sorry. I'm taking the Vikings, I'm taking the Eagles, and I'm taking the 49ers over the Cowboys. You want to know why? Because they don't make these type of mistakes on a consistent weekly effort. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I don't trust the Cowboys at all. Adam knows where I'm going with this. He knows it. He just doesn't want to admit it. They're going to be one and done. They'll make the playoffs because they have no choice now because they clinched because the Commanders lost. But they're an accident waiting to happen because it's the Cowboys. They can't help themselves. This is what they do.
All right. Is it my turn?
You can speak.
We'll forgive you.
All right. 2 minutes uninterrupted. So I wouldn't go that far as to say they're not top three right now, especially not in the NFC, because I still, while the Vikings, they pulled off a great victory. They have a lot of momentum going their way, and rightfully so. It was against the Colts. It was against the Colts, who are having some big time issues themselves. But like the Cowboys, I mean, I'm still looking at them in a negative sense as well after this game. I mean, there's only a couple ways you could look at this and say, well, and it's the only real one is that they're facing Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars, who are a good young team and who are really starting to come on the past couple of weeks in early and late in this season. They may even make the playoffs at this point. They're only a game, but actually I believe they're half a game. They're half a game behind a playoff spot, I believe. Mm-hmm. No, they're only a game. They're a game behind the division lead. That's their way into the playoffs at this point. But they might actually catch them. But that's besides the point. Listen, this team is still really good, And I still have them above the Vikings. I'm sorry. The Vikings, I don't trust Dak Prescott. Or excuse me, I don't trust Kirk Cousins. And the Vikings kind of have their own have issues of their own. They're a team that has, I mean, let's not forget when the Cowboys went into their house and smothered them 40-3. So this was a bad loss, but upsets happen at the end of the day. But I do slide the Cowboys a little bit further down on my power rankings. I have the 49ers over them now. That's the team. That's the 49ers are now the biggest threat to beat to upset the Eagles in the playoffs. If there's any team that's going to beat them, it's not going to be the Cowboys. The Cowboys still could do it, but I give a better chance to the 49ers at this point. And I don't even know about going into this game. I did have the Cowboys as a potentially top 3 team in the league. Now I barely have them top 3 in the NFC because I don't see the Chiefs making that big of a mistake. I don't see the Bills choking like that. The Bengals absolutely not. The Bengals have been red hot lately, and they're a story of their own. Joe Burrow, back-to-back seasons for the Bengals for 30 or more touchdowns. The only quarterback ever in franchise history to have back-to-back seasons. The only one to have several 30-plus touchdown seasons at all. In that, I mean, it's a low bar to set for the Bengals. Let's be real, but like there's a lot of teams that now I think are better than the Cowboys. Just in the flawed NFC, I still think they're top 3. I still do. There's Philly, there's the 49ers, and then I still have the Cowboys. But let's pump the brakes a little bit on the Vikings. They may not be pushovers like they have been in years past, but I don't think they're better than the Cowboys. Cowboys have a much more balanced team, and I just think they're top to bottom a better team. Also, I don't think the Cowboys are going one and done because they're facing the Bucs in the first round of the playoffs. That is all.
If the season ended today,
I don't see them like. I think they're probably gonna beat the Eagles this week just because Jalen Hurts isn't playing. And I don't see the Cowboys losing the rest of their games. And let me pull up their schedule real quick. Let's get this. Pull up their schedule real quick, and here we go. So they have the Eagles next, which is probably a win. Then they have the Titans. That's probably a win as well. And then the Commanders. Probably a win. And now this isn't a disgusting schedule, like an easy peasy, like walk in the park. But I would say that they should win these games. Then again, they should have beaten the Jaguars. But upsets happen. I still have them. They're still top 3 in the NFC. That's my take. I was a little all over the place, but I mean, I'm just flustered that this happened. There's a lot of things that are just crazy and that we're going to cover. But do we want actually let's move on because we're 15 minutes into the show. So the Dolphins, they started off, they had a pretty good season at first. They were 8-3, and we were thinking one of the top teams in the AFC. They're barely in the playoffs at this point, like literally barely in the playoffs. We're going to talk about next. This is the Fumblerooski podcast.
And the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. This is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Swings it way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown.
This is the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Secret Weapon Consulting. Adam Wright with CJ Medeiros and Justin Tucker. Now, the Dolphins, like I said, teasing this segment, they've had a pretty good season. And outside of that stretch in the beginning of the year where Tua was hurt, so they had their backup in, and they had a couple of other injuries as well. They lost 3 straight. But besides that, they've been golden. 8-3 start to the year. And you can almost discount those 3 losses. It's almost not fair. I mean, well, injuries happen, but still. Now they've kind of lost 3 straight. They lost in a game it started off in a blowout loss to the 49ers. Then they lost in upset fashion to the Chargers, who've been kind of up and down this year. Like, they should be better than they are, but they're still borderline. They're in the hunt. They're kind of a playoff team, but they're like barely right there. And this week they went into Buffalo and they kind of had their hands tied. Like, yes, they deserve to be underdogs in this game because Buffalo has really good talent and they had the elements on their side. It was cold. It was a warm weather team going up into Buffalo, facing a cold weather team when it was cold out. And also they got snow earlier in the day, but they still made a game out of it. And you could come out saying, okay, they're turning things around, but it was kind of a team at this point that they needed to beat. They really needed to win that game in order to avoid losing 3 in a row, because this team is just too talented this team's too talented to be 8-6 and be the 7th seed and barely squeak into the playoffs. They're worlds better than they have been in the past couple seasons where they barely missed the playoffs. And now you're barely going to make it in, if that. So guys, should we start reevaluating the season for the Dolphins? Are they running into bad luck, or are they, should they be better than this?
It's kind of like a combination of both. They ran into good quality teams and now they're dealing with some injuries. I mean, it's unfortunate what's going through with them right now, but at the same time, it's like it's that time of the year. It's December football, the one time of year where it gets colder and things become more difficult and things aren't open as they once were, and you have to make changes on the fly and you have to get used to it. This is the make or break time of year. And unfortunately for them, the only light game, and I use that in parentheses, light game they have left is Green Bay. And I don't think that's going to be an easy game either, because coming up, they still have the Patriots and they still have the Jets. Those are 2 divisional games. If they can win both those games, I could see them making the playoffs. However, those are 2 big ifs within themselves, because the Patriots aren't no pushovers and the Jets are trying to survive by no matter what to make the playoffs. So when I look at their schedule, it's going to tell me whether or not this team is for real or not. But I'm not sure if I'm ready to reevaluate them yet. It's just they've ran into bad luck with the opponents they've had to face. That's all. They had to face the Bills and they had to face the 49ers. Those teams are tough. So as much as I want to be like, oh my God, this team is awful, no, they just ran into some bad luck with the teams they're going up against.
All right, CJ.
Miami is in this little zone I like to call the in-between. They can throw their weight around with bad opponents, but when it comes to like the actual cream of the crops, like the Niners, who could very well take like the 2nd or 3rd spot in the NFC, or their division rival Bills, their Dolphins are going to say, oh, we can hang with them. Well, I have some news for you. It's not enough to hang with a team. You have to beat them. If you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. And when they're playing like real quality teams, they're not pulling out victories as often as they should. And I will admit that a lot of it is because of injuries, and their defense has kind of fallen apart as of late. But it's just, with all the hype around you, with Tua for some reason getting MVP love, it's like, oh, we got Tyreek Hill, for all the trash talking, all the cockiness, and the wheels are starting to come off. It's like watching a slow motion car crash. I'm sorry. They're not a threat to the Super Bowl. They're not a threat for the AFC Championship game. Or it's just, and they're probably going to squeak into the playoffs at the 7th seed. And it's just, I feel you need to start worrying about Miami. And you have Green Bay, New England, and the Jets left. All teams that Miami is better than, but I would be shocked if they drop one because, like Justin said, they're not pushovers. So, but it's not enough to win these games either. Now, hear me out. Yeah, you can beat them. But the thing is, if it's a close game or like a really ugly win, there's really not much separating a really ugly win from a loss. Because if you're going up against a team that you should wallop and you get in a defensive rock fight, I'm sorry. That's just inexcusable for a team of Miami's supposed caliber. All I'm going to say is I'm going to be looking at these next few weeks very closely. And if Miami gets in on the 7th seed, then I don't know. Then I'll just be disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the way I look at this season, when they went 8, and I've mentioned it a lot that they started 8-3. That was almost more like them being 8-0. Because those 3 games where they lost, they lost Tua for 3 games. Tua was practically, he got his head knocked off. And then when he came back, the team started winning again. And yeah, they're going through a rough stretch here. But it feels like it's not really, and life isn't fair, but it feels like it's just not fair for what they're going through right now. Because if this was happening, like, let's say they're losing 3 in a row, they should be like 11-3, because they would have won at least 2 of the 3 games that they lost earlier in the season. They would have beaten the Jets, not lost to them 40-17. And I think I think at full strength they're better than the Vikings. The Vikings went into Miami, so Miami had home field advantage. With Tua in that game, you win. You win that game, especially since just with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback, it was a 1-possession game. The Bengals, you can make a case. The Bengals are a pretty talented team themselves, but they were having struggles too. They could have beaten that team. So, like, this is kind of what sucks about football. The injury bug hits you. And it's hard to predict whether or not it's going to happen. The Dolphins have done all the right things the past couple of seasons. They invested in their quarterback. They went and got him some help. They've gotten him protection. They surrounded him with a pretty good defense. But you can't predict injuries. And that's kind of what's hitting them, is some bad luck. And yes, they're a warm weather team. So in cold weather conditions, they're probably not going to play the same level they could. But they kind of held their own against Buffalo there, wouldn't you think? They did pretty well. And you could come out of that with a moral victory saying, well, I mean, a Bills team that in many ways has the advantage over you, you hung in there against them. But you can't really call it that anymore because they're 8-6. You could call this a moral victory. But given the situation, you lost to the 49ers in blowout fashion. You lost to the Chargers in upset fashion. You can't really call that a moral victory because now you need every victory you can get. This team's too good to be a 7 seed at 8-6. They need to get a little higher here. And looking at their remaining schedule, they have the Packers, which should be a win, especially since the Packers are visiting the Dolphins. They have the Patriots and the Jets, which aren't givens, but I still think those are games that you should win, especially against the Patriots with the issues that they are having that we'll get to next. The Jets are having their own issues, and they can't even start Mike White anymore, who they wanted to start over Zach Wilson because he's hurt now, and they're starting the guy who they decided to bench for disciplinary reasons. So I think those are games that you should win. So if you finish 11-6, I guess that's a step up from what you've done in years past. But this team has been playing too well to be 11-6 either. They should be at least. They should finish at least 12-5, 12-5, 13-4. Like that's the talent level that they've had this year, and they've shown it time and time again. But again, things that you really can't control have really come back to hurt them, and it sucks. That's kind of what you've gone through. All right, we do need to move on, but we have the Patriots who lost to the Raiders on a botched lateral on the final play. So the Raiders. Yes, I added in this segment last second because there's no way you can't exclude this play. It's being talked out. It's being talked about all over
excluding a Patriots game? Never.
Of course not. As much it's going to pain CJ and I. But that was a wild, even as Patriots fans, that was a wild game in itself. And we're going to get to all of it next. This is the Fumblerooski podcast. You're listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Secret Weapon Consulting. Adam Wright, CJ Medeiros, Justin Tucker with you in the house. All right. So this segment's going to hurt, but the New England Patriots lost to the Raiders on a botched lateral on the final play. Now, I'm going to break it down to you real simply. So the Patriots fell down 13-7 as late as they went into halftime. It was 13-7. And the Patriots slowly chipped away at the lead with a few field goals and a pick six, courtesy of safety Kyle Duggar. And then they finally took the lead with 3:43 remaining at 24-17 after Ramondre Stevenson got a 34-yard touchdown run. And then they got the 2-point conversion, 24-17 at this point. So then the Raiders get the ball back, and they have the chance to answer. The Raiders did not manage. It was a 3-and-out. They did not manage to get anything. And then they punted the ball back. 3 minutes left at this point. You would think Patriots, they just need a couple of first downs, one, maybe two first. Even if you only get one, you give them the ball back and you give them very limited time to score, and their hands are tied. And they still need a touchdown, go all the way down. They couldn't get any of that. So they give them the ball back with 2.5 minutes left on the clock, which is plenty of time. And they have a couple, I believe, did they have a timeout at that point?
Hey, I was watching
CJ.
Another game.
I don't know. I don't remember.
They still had the 2 point. They still had the 2 minute warning. And I believe they had one timeout left. So they managed to hold them to a 4th and 10. The Raiders converted it. And then controversy happened. Deep ball to Keelan Cole, 30-yard pass. It was called a touchdown at first. Upon replays, although the angles that they had were a little, it was hard to interpret. It looked like he was out of bounds. In fact, it was almost clear. He stepped, the Keelan Cole stepped out of bounds on his second foot.
Adam, I'd like to point out we have new pictures, new angles come out that did in fact show, well, not by much, but he did go out of bounds.
All right. Either way, the refs, upon review, called it a complete pass and a touchdown. So at this point, it is now 24-24. The Raiders have tied it. And then At this point, there were 32 seconds left. The Patriots have 2 timeouts, and they had the ball. Patriots had the ball at their own 25-yard line. They didn't manage to get the ball far enough down the field. And then they handed the ball off a couple times as well. So I'll go through what happened. So on 1st and 10 at the New England 25, pass from Mac Jones to Jacoby Myers, 8 yards. Didn't get out of bounds. They had to timeout New England, 25 seconds left. Then 2nd and 2, Mac Jones pass incomplete short to Nelson Aguilar. At this point, there's 20 seconds left and clock stops. Then 20 seconds left on a 3rd and 2. Ramondre Stevenson up the middle for 12 yards. And at this point, there's 14 seconds left. Timeout number 3 by New England with 14 seconds left. Mac Jones incomplete it just says incomplete short right. I wasn't watching the game. I couldn't. I was at a Christmas concert. Mac Jones incomplete deep right to Jacoby Myers. At this point, there's 10 seconds left. 10 seconds left, and you have the ball at the New England 45. You, at this point, want to at least try to either throw to the sidelines to try and get some ground for a potential field goal or throw the Hail Mary. What did they do? They handed the ball off to Ramondre Stevenson, who got a solid gain, but then he lateraled it to Jacoby Myers, and Jacoby Myers tried to lateral it all the way across the field. I'm not sure who he was looking for. Maybe Mac Jones, but old Patriot Chandler Jones intercepts it, stiff arms the hell out of Mac Jones, who is the only guy to beat, runs it all the way back for the touchdown as time expires. Raiders win. CJ, I'll give it to you first. What are your thoughts?
To any Raiders fans listening, I'd like to say this. Good game, but you know it's out of bounds. And I've seen Raiders fans on Instagram saying, hey, did you see the new pictures? Keelan Cole was in bounds. And I'm like, what level of denial are you in? And they're like, he may have been ruled out of bounds, but that's what you get for the tuck rule. Don't complain about the refs after the tuck rule. Also, on a side note, I don't understand the controversy around the tuck rule. It was a rule at the time, and they made the right call. I mean, there was just the rule on the books. That's not controversial. And then the decision to lateral it. Matt Patricia, what are you thinking? I know Ramondre took the blame, then Jacoby took the blame, then Mac took the blame, but no. There is one man, and it's Matt Patricia.
It was an improvised play. It wasn't called.
It wasn't called.
It was improvised by the players on the field. That wasn't Patricia. What was Patricia was deciding to run the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
With 10 seconds left.
It's just like, so either way, Patricia's play calling has been terrible. And the worst part is there's locker room drama now in New England. Trent Brown liked to tweet saying they should move on from Mac Jones. Apparently, a lot of players have been very vocal that they do not want Patricia there. Apparently, Bill doesn't see an issue. He's just like, well, it wouldn't be worth it to make a change now. I'm like, dude, do something. And he's real. And apparently in Kraft has said, you can have Patricia just for the remainder of this year because I'm not signing off on him being the offensive play caller again. And you know, the play happened. I would say everyone says it's now the dumbest play in NFL history, which you got the Indy fake punt. You got throwing the ball on the 1 yard line in the Super Bowl, the butt fumble. It's a pretty stupid play. I wouldn't call it the dumbest, but good Lord, this Patriots team hurts me. And everyone's like, well, Mac Jones is a bust. And I'm like, no. Bill Belichick has failed Mac Jones. Mac Jones has never had a good offensive coordinator. He had a washed up Josh McDaniels and a woefully unqualified Matt Patricia. He's never been given a true wide receiver one. and the O-line's been battered by injury. Play calling, not good personnel around him. The deck's been stacked against him from the start. Bill has just failed him. You know, like the play calling's been awful. His personnel decisions, awful. I cannot get around this. I hate Matt Patricia with every fiber of my being. In fact, I hope that next time there's a game at Gillette, the New England fans pelt beer cans at him because that is what he deserves.
All right.
Hold on. Can I just finish?
All right, yeah. Just
whole
tone it down
thing.
a little bit.
Yeah. It's just they got to get rid of Matt Patricia. They have to get rid of their special teams coach, Cam Ackord. And Bill needs, because, Bill's not big into titles, but we need a real offensive coordinator and a real defensive coordinator. This whole coordinator by committee thing doesn't work. It has failed. Our offense is being run into the ground by the football version of the village idiot. And let me tell you something. I trust gas station sushi more than I trust Matt Patricia. This man angers me greatly. He angers all of New England greatly. Everyone's like, spoiled New England fans getting angry. And I'm like, it's hardly being a spoiled fan to say Matt Patricia's awful. He never should have been there. And and Bill's managerial style, I'm starting to worry is just if the game's kind of passed him by. I mean, everyone does have a shelf life, but Bill needs to show that he is in tune with his players and can make the right changes, because I honestly wouldn't take just completely clearing house off the table and just starting from a blank slate.
All right. Talk.
Tell me how you really feel, CJ. Oh, geez. Where do I begin? First off, the play itself. I'm not going to lie to you. I've thought about this countless of times, and I disagree with CJ. This might actually be the dumbest play in NFL history. Because...
All right, dumber than the Colts fake punt? Dumber than the block fumble? No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
That fake punt was awful.
The reason I think it was dumb in the first place because A, it wasn't called in the huddle. B, it wasn't executed the way it was supposed to in the huddle. C, the players took liberties with that play, took it into the hands of themselves, so I can't fault the coaches for it. Fourth, Jacoby Myers really thought in his mind, gee, we need to get this to the end zone one way or another. Let's throw it backwards to who? Mac Jones, who has no speed and cannot get it 50 yards down the field, and he was already in front of the line of scrimmage, so that wasn't going to work. And even then, he underthrows it and throws it to the only person in the vicinity, Chandler Jones, and the rest is history, because why would you expect Mac Jones to make that tackle one-on-one with Chandler Jones? Even though he did take responsibility for that, that is not Mac Jones's fault. That is Jacoby Myers and Ramondre Stevenson's fault for not letting the game go into overtime. Now that that's being said, despite all of the faults that New England has, the lack of a passing game, the lack of quality receivers, the terrible O-line that Mac Jones is dealing with, the occasional faults that the defense has, the special teams problems, despite all the faults that they have, and the lack of an OC, they are still in the playoff race. It's not the end of the world just yet. They still have 3 opportunities to win games and to get back in the playoffs. If they can win those 3 games, I believe they will make the playoffs. But that remains to be seen. Oh my God. I don't even know where to go with this team. It's from as disciplined. I used to remember Bill Belichick's teams. The Patriots used to be a very disciplined team. This team feels very undisciplined, if that makes sense. It's not adding up here. The passing game is mediocre at best. The running game is the best quality about the team, but it can't get started with the lack of the O-line that it has. The players don't want to be there. The OC is non-existent. They do it by committee, and even they are terrible at it. They are killing their quarterback. They are killing him. And the only thing they can rely on a week-to-week basis is that defense, which still tells me Bill Belichick can still coach. He can still coach. Maybe not offense, but he can still coach on the NFL. So with all the problems that they have Oh my God. Thinking about everything surrounding that play. Yeah, it might be the dumbest play and the stupidest play I've ever seen in my life.
All right. So what I still blame it all on the play calling, how everything worked out. Because you could blame it on the refs on that call, which wasn't a touchdown. You could blame it on that final play, which was a stupid play. You could say both of those things. But say what you want. If you are the Patriots and you have the ball with 3 minutes left and you can't even get a first down to put this game on ice, that's not on anyone else but yourself. And this is what happens when you only do run and screen plays and short checkdowns in the flats. That's what's going to happen. You're not going to get the first downs when you need it. This is the problem with defense and running the ball. It helps you win some games, but whenever you need to do stuff like this, when you actually need to get the first down, then that's where it becomes a problem. The final of this game should have been 24-17. You get a couple first downs, you put the game on ice. They couldn't even do that. Even after the touchdown, the game time touchdown, they still could have either, if you have the ball, 2 timeouts, 32 seconds left, think about all the quarterbacks or just all the offenses that could get into field goal range. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills would get into field goal range. Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense would get into field goal range. Patrick Mahomes would get a touchdown. And we're sitting here. You have the number 15 overall pick, Mac Jones, and you have some decent weapons around you in Kendrick Bourne, who you barely even use. You completely neglect. Hunter Henry, Kendrick, I already mentioned Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, Devontae Parker, and you decide to do all checkdowns and running the ball on the final play to your 4th round running back, who granted has had a decent season, pretty good season, but you can't do anything with the guys who you paid for and throw the ball towards the sidelines and try to get into field goal range. You couldn't do that. At the very least, take a knee or throw a Hail Mary, throw up a prayer. Then you're playing for overtime and you still have a chance. But that seemed like, again, like Tuck said, that was the players taking this game into their own hands because they did not trust the play calling of Matt Patricia. They said, this is a stupid play call. This isn't going to do us anything. If Ramondre Stevenson just went down on that play, then what are we getting out of it? You just get overtime. That's it. At that point, take a knee. Why are you risking Ramondre Stevenson's health? Why are you risking all the linemen's health who are blocking for that play? Like, why? Why not? If you're going to run a play, go for it all. Not just a 15-yard gain. Come on. That made no sense to me. Not at all. Like, it was bad enough that they tried to lateral and everything. It's not that I don't blame them, because I do. That was a stupid play. But I blame the coaching that the players have lost that much faith in you that they tried to improvise that whole thing. And they tried to pull something out of their ass that wasn't there. That's where I have an issue. And again, it all comes down to the play calling. There were so many times where you could have at least had this game on ice, or could have at least put yourself in position to regain the lead and win the game. But you didn't. You didn't, because your play calling is that bad. That is all. But we're running a little bit behind schedule, so we're going to move on. And we're going to go to our week 16, if you can believe it. We're on a week 16 of our waiver wire pickups for our Fumblerooski fantasy fix. That's next. This is the Fumblerooski podcast.
Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. It's caught! Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable!
This is the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Secret Weapon Consulting. Adam Wright with CJ Medeiros and Justin Tucker. All right, so we are on to our Fumblerooski Fantasy Fix, where we are doing our waiver wire pickups. Congratulations to every team who has, at this point, depending on your playoff structure, if you made the playoffs, congrats. If you made it to the next round, congrats. And I'm not sure if anyone is having their championship week this week, but congrats if you made it or if you won the championship. I don't know. I don't know how you guys structure your leagues. Either way, we are here to give you your waiver wire pickups for the best chance for you guys to win a championship in your league. All right, starting with running backs, we have Deion Jackson and Jerick McKinnon. For wide receivers, we have KJ Osborne and Jahan Dotson. We have at tight end, Juwan Johnson and Chigoziem Okonkwo. For quarterback streamers, we have Gardner Minshew at Dallas and Geno Smith at Kansas City. For defense streamers, we have Broncos at the Rams and Jaguars at the Jets. All right. Up next, we have our Fumblerooski fan box asking for the most fraudulent teams this season in the playoff picture. Don't go anywhere. This is the Fumblerooski podcast.
Way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown.
This is the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Secret Weapon Consulting. Adam Wright with CJ Medeiros and Justin Tucker. All right, we're on to our Fumblerooski fan box, where we post a question filter on our Instagram every Monday, and you can respond with hot takes, questions, and more, and we'll discuss it and give you a shout out on our podcast. Respond to next week's fan box question to be featured on our show. So the question of the week was, who is the most fraudulent team in the playoff picture this year? So James Calzini said Vikings, and that's one where you could say it's a good, so we had a couple people who said Vikings. Ian Mulhern also said Vikings. Reed Becker said Vikings. And Chris Kostic gave a couple answers. He said Vikings, Dallas Cowboys, and the Bills as well. But the Vikings, that's an interesting one. Because they proved they're not, this past week, they're not pushovers. But I'm indifferent on calling them fraudulent. All right. Among responders who said Dallas, so Jack Hartman said Dallas for sure. Mm-hmm. And then going through, we're trying to go through on everyone who said the Cowboys. Brogdon Hill said Cowboys. And then Chris Kostic said Cowboys as well. The Cowboys are a team, I'm not ready to call them frauds just yet. But that wasn't a good.
Come on, Adam. Bring it on.
If you're on team frauds for Cowboys, then this was a good week for you. I'll say that much. But I'm not ready to jump on that train yet because upsets happen. Yeah, and the Jaguars in recent weeks have been no pushovers. But I will put at this point the 49ers over the Jaguars now. You move the needle a little bit with me. All right. Also, Zachary Stilson said Cowboys. He said he had some strong words. Cowboys, they will choke no matter what. No matter what happens, who they play, they'll choke. So yikes.
Yeah, that's fair.
Jim, I'm forgetting this kid's name. It's Tim MC. I'm trying to. Instagram is hard to navigate here. I'm trying to get to this kid's response so I could call him by his name and not his username. Charlie Tim. There it is. So Charlie Tim said Tennessee and Baltimore once Lamar comes back, they'll be fine. So Baltimore's one thing. I'm not sure if they're contenders, even if they are at full strength. But the Titans, that AJ Brown trade is looking worse and worse as it goes on. And other people who said Titans, Luke Banning also said Titans. It's like they should. It was bad enough that they have Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, but at least they had a number one wide receiver. Now they don't have that. And Treylon Burks, maybe he's the guy, maybe he's not. But he's clearly not ready yet. And why would you hit the reset button and roll the dice on the possibility of him not even being, right for the job? What if he doesn't pan out? And AJ Brown did, and now he's panning out in Philly as well. Diego Huertas said Jets or Giants. I don't know what he said for the rest of this. He said lay hope take would be the Bucks. I don't know what he's trying to say, but I think
the other pick would be the Bucks.
I think his other take would be the Bucks. So other people who said Bucks, Jad Noman, he said Bucks. Mallory Kleppel said Bucks. Owen Vanslack said Bucks. Who else said Bucks? Isaac Zonana, our favorite Dolphins fan, said Bucks. Among guys who said Jets or Giants, Grayson Mortimer said one of the MetLife teams. Just skimming through these. Daniel Blasiak said Giants, not Jets, because Giants have no one who's bad. But Drew Falcone said Giants. Eli Turner said Giants. So the Giants, they did look good. They have a good wide receiving core on paper, but it's not healthy, and their offensive line is not healthy either. So Daniel Jones is having trouble staying on his feet. They're now a top 4 in the league in times sacked for their quarterback. Yeah. That doesn't look good on their part. What else? So we got some Vikings picks. We had one for Dolphins. Stephen Parker said Dolphins. So the Dolphins, it's only because of their health, and also they're a warm weather team, so they're already at a disadvantage because if they now they're most likely gonna the road to the playoffs for them, the road to the Super Bowl for them goes on the road. Like they're not gonna have any home games, so I don't see them. I just don't see them making a run at this point. And it's hardly their fault. All right. Who else? Connor Fallon said the Commanders. The Commanders. It's just because fraud implies that they were once thought to be good.
Yeah.
But going into the season, they didn't look like they were going to be good. They would be borderline a playoff team, and they are right now. But they started off the season 1-4, and with Taylor Heineke, they've actually had a good stretch lately at quarterback. Looking at all these other responses, Secret Weapon Consulting said the team with zebra stripes. The NFL officials have proven to be frauds over and over.
Yes,
I mean the officiating. Yeah, the officiating's been extra bad this year, but they're also just plain old a scapegoat for any NFL fan to say our team lost because of the officials, which I kind of feel bad about. It has been bad this year, but most of the time when a team loses, there's almost always a good portion of their fan base that says they lost because of the refs. Or, oh, Patriots versus the refs. Buccaneers versus the refs. Cowboys versus the refs. You're paying off the refs.
Sounds like a bunch of frauds, if you ask me.
Sounds like they're the frauds. All right. Another person who said Vikings, Derek Hool, he said Minnesota. Well, he didn't say the Vikings are frauds. He said Minnesota among teams locked in. So he's more speaking in favor of him. So yeah, like they proved that they're at least not pushovers, but they got it. Like, I want to see a little more from them. I wanted to revisit this one where Chris Kostich said Vikings or Dallas, but this second part, Buffalo low-key could be one as well if Josh Allen can't keep the turnovers down.
Yeah, that could be a problem. That could be a nasty problem. That could rear its ugly head in the playoffs, and that could cost them.
Because, like, when Josh Allen is, like, when he's not turning the ball over, the team wins most of the time. But when he's turning the ball over, for example, there was a 3-game stretch where he threw 6 interceptions. And they won the game against Green Bay where he threw 2. But the other 2 games against the Jets and the other one, I had the other one. The other game, which was which I'm forgetting the team they faced in that loss. Oh, and the Dolphins. No, it wasn't the Dolphins. Hang on. Jesus. Again, I hate ESPN now. I really hate ESPN now. They have these ads, and as you're scrolling, I swear they make it this way so that if you accidentally brush your finger over it, you're going to the App Store for Apple Music. And I'm like, I don't want Apple Music. Spotify's better. Hang on. And that one game they lost was against the Vikings. That's the one I was missing. During that 2-game stretch, he turned the ball over 5 times.
Yep.
You can't do that. You can't do that if you're trying to win games. And if you do that in the playoffs, you're almost certain to be eliminated. The Chiefs aren't going to be as forgiving. Chiefs aren't going to be forgiving on that. And certainly the Bengals. All right, I believe that's everyone, right?
Yep. I think so.
All right. You guys have any other thoughts before we end the show tonight?
Rest up for my Ravens, man. I need a win this week. I need a win, and I need us to win out. All
right. Well, that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. We have new episodes out on Tuesdays and Fridays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have all our episodes available on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and so much more. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our podcasts and the latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Over and out.